Guys, I am so excited to be here. Adam, like you said, we've been friends for just a few years, and when this was just a dream, when this was just a dream that God had planted on his heart, we were talking about it. And so, yeah, I serve at a church called Flatirons Church. We got to work together for a while. We love what's doing. I mean, our church has contributed to what God's doing here because we believe in what's happening in you guys, through you guys, and in what God's going to do here in Northwest Arkansas. I want to just tell you a little bit about myself. First thing, my family, most important thing. Mary, you can throw up that picture. Married to my beautiful wife, Kara, for 16 years now. Man, pictures like that, sometimes when you see a picture, you're like, I thought I had more hair than that, but pictures don't lie. And then my kids, just a little bit about them. Claire, there in the middle, she's our oldest. She is like the sweetest, kindest, most helpful kid I've ever met. Gray, he is our oldest son. He's right there in the white. And Gray actually came on this trip with me. He's been playing video games on my iPhone for most of the time. And he's the most creative liar that I've ever, I don't know if you guys, parents, have that kid, but like Gray, we live in the Colorado near Boulder. And so we got some blackberries and Gray was just eating blackberries. I'm like, buddy, did you rinse off the blackberries before you ate them? Pesticides, worried about that. And he goes, Dad, I did. I rinsed them off with my mouth. And I was like, that's not how it happens, okay? Like, you can't do that. Kate is, she is admittedly, she's our youngest girl. She says that she's the fashion girl. And then Ford there, he's our youngest. And parents in the room, do you guys ever just wonder if you should have stopped one earlier than you did? So I'm just being honest. I mean, there are days that I just love that kid, and then there are days that I'm like, you surely aren't going to be the type of kid that grows up and listens to your dad's old sermon tapes. So I'm safe saying that. We're totally good. But got a great family, love them. So grateful for my wife for letting me come out here, spend some time with you guys. And Adam and I got to know each other. We both, at different times, pastored a church up in the foothills of Colorado. In the 9:45 service, didn't get to hear this. I'm going to tell you guys because I have a little bit of extra time. But so it's up at about 7,500 feet, and there were rumors at this campus that there were bears wandering around in the neighborhood. So it was on like the next door and everything. Next door is where you go if you want to make friends and say really nice thing about your neighbors. That's what you do on next door, right? So anyways, next door you've got, they're talking about bears. And then I got up to the West Campus and I saw that the trash cans had been like pulled over and that there was like trash scattered everywhere and like remnants of food and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm cleaning up after this. Like a bear was actually on our property. And so I'm like cleaning up and everything. And then I go back to watch our security footage. And as I'm watching our security footage, I'm watching through fast forward, nothing, no bear. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I see these teenagers and they're just kind of skateboarding around. I was like, guys, I hope these teenagers get out of here before the bear shows up. And then they took the garbage can and just scattered trash everywhere. And I realized what was more likely to happen rather than a bear was a bunch of teenagers just tossed stuff out there. But like where Adam was serving before this, he was serving at a church that overlooked the city of Denver. Like you'd see elk and there were, hypothetically bear up there. And he had a vision for what God was going to do in Northwest Arkansas through a group of people like this. And God put that on his heart, he and Ashley's heart, and they've been working toward that. And I would say from going from that view to come out here to Arkansas that has like just some of the most amazing people, the best mountain biking, like some of the best fishing. You guys really, you're right in your alley. I don't know if you guys appreciate Adam and Ashley, but I just want to say, like, Adam, on behalf of all these people, I know they appreciate you. They love you. They're so proud of you and so thankful. So I'm just glad to be here today. I know we're in the middle of this series called Searching For, and today we're going to talk about searching for purpose, part 2. And here's the thing that I think that we all understand this. Our purpose, your purpose, is defined by God and God alone. He's the only one that defines your purpose, gets to define it. But at the same time, our purpose is refined by the people that we spend time with. You guys understand that this is true, okay? Like when you surround yourself with people, they don't share your purpose, they don't, support your purpose, or they start to question it. And what happens is then you start to question it. You start to care less about it. Maybe you forget about your purpose. But at the same time, if you surround yourself with people who support your purpose, who are leaning into it, who are pushing each other on, you understand more and more what it means. You're going to take ground. And that's why what we do here every Sunday morning, it matters so much because it's people sharing a purpose. We're locking arms together. We're reminding each other the truth that we know about God and about life that maybe we forgot during the week. And that's why the writer of Hebrews says it's so important to do this. Look at this in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 23. It's on there on the screen. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope that we profess. For he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. And so we've been talking about exactly how we do that. We've been talking about our values, the things that hold us together. And I'm going to use some we language here just because, I feel so connected to what God is doing in this place, to Adam and to Ashley, to be able to be a part of the management team that's helping get this thing off the ground. So I'm going to use some we language. But here's the thing. Last week, we talked about engaging the mission. And engaging the mission just means this. We know growth can't happen without putting our faith into practice. And so growing means going. And then today's value is intentional environments. We believe the church should be attractive to those outside the Christian faith. He goes back to what Adam taught last week in Matthew chapter 5. He says, "You're the light of the world. A town built on a hill, it can't be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl, but instead they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." See, the church was designed to be a place where the world looks in from a distance, and they realize, man, there's light there. There's good there. There's hope there. And I want to show you what comes next in the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus' most famous sermon, we've been looking at it to uncover our values. In verse 17, he says this, "Do not think that I've come to abolish the law or the prophets. I've not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly, I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished." Now, this is what's so interesting about this story, okay? What's happening is that Jesus was hanging out with, he's spending time with, he's teaching, and he's being inclusive of a certain type of people. And the certain type of people were people who were on the outside. And for one reason or another, this doesn't seem right to another group of people called religious people. And so these religious people, they start accusing Jesus of certain things. They say, okay, he's a glutton, okay, he's a drunkard. He's actually coming to abolish everything that the people have been taught, the law and the prophets. And all throughout Jesus' ministry, he was dealing with criticism about the way that he reached people, but it was never really about the way that he reached people. Typically, it was about people's judgments of the people that he was reaching. And here's what I want you guys to remember, because I know the heartbeat of this church is to reach people who typically wouldn't feel like they belong at other churches. See, when you're trying to reach people that other churches don't reach, and who typically don't go to church, you're going to get accused of a lot of things. I just want to encourage you, when that happens, it's when, not if. When that happens, I want you to look to your right, because that's where Jesus is, being accused of the very same things. It was happening 2,000 years ago, and it's still happening today. And I know Adam talked about this a while back, but just a few verses earlier, when Jesus started his Sermon on the Mount, he said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." And I know that you guys learned the word poor in spirit is translated a certain word, and that word is called Anawim. Do you guys remember when Adam talked about that? This concept of Anawim. And Anawim is this term that went back to the Old Testament. So back in the Old Testament, when the Babylonian Empire conquered Jerusalem, a way to kind of push the people down and decimate the town is they grabbed all the people who were the best, the brightest, the most influential, the most powerful, the richest, anybody who meant anything, they took them and they took them in exile to Babylon. And so that meant the people that were left were people that weren't rich, weren't powerful, weren't influential, people that didn't really matter, people who weren't worthy enough to get chosen. And those people were the Anawim, and they called them the throwaway people. Anawim is when you look at that person in the mirror and you say in your mind or out loud, I'm just a piece of. Anawim is when your husband comes home and he's pale in the face, and while you've been raising your kids, he tells you that he's been having an affair with a woman who's younger, prettier, skinnier, and all of your insecurities, all of your fears are now validated, and you feel Anawim. When you look at your dad's eyes and you know that you're a disappointment, that's Anawim. When your kids tell you that you're a failure as a parent, that's Anawim. When you got downsized from your job because you're too old, too irrelevant, not needed, Anawim. When you have these confused sexual thoughts that bring you so much shame and guilt, and at the same time you feel like you can't tell anybody you're just an imposter, that's Anawim. Anawim is for the people who weren't picked, weren't chosen, feel alone and abandoned and insignificant and unlovable and unworthy and never enough. In many days, Anawim is us. And Anawim is people like us. And people who aren't in this room, people who feel Anawim, they live under the assumption that if there is a God, he thinks they're Anawim too. They're just throwaway people too. That's what they think. And before they ever take a chance on God, they're convinced that God's already given up on them. Because that is why it is so important to be planting a church like the church that you're planting right now. Churches that tell people who believe inside that they're too far gone, that you're saying, hey, Jesus isn't done for you. He still wants good for you. There's still hope for you. That's why the lives that you live and what we do here on Sundays matters so much. Because here's what I think all of us understand. Sometimes you only get one shot. Sometimes you only get one shot when you're inviting your friends. This happens all the time, okay? You're just praying and you're praying and you're praying that your friend, your husband, your coworker, your brother joins you for church. And you're praying. And the moment that they say yes, your prayers change. That you stop praying for them to join you for church. Then you start praying for church. Then you're like, I hope the parking lot's not too full. I hope they don't run out of coffee. I hope Adam's teaching and not one of those other guys, like you're praying all these different prayers. You're praying for everything to be good because you know what all of us know. Sometimes they're only going to give it one shot. Paul, the man who wrote a lot of the New Testament, he says it like this. He says, making the most of every opportunity, make the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. You see, this is one of the only times that the Bible actually promotes a scarcity mindset rather than an abundance mindset. You see, all throughout the Bible, it talks about how God's going to provide for everything that we need. It's how we have so much available to us through God. He's going to supply us for everything that we lack. He's going to take care of us. That's abundance mentality. That means there's plenty to go around. But this is one of the few times where the Bible, it actually promotes a scarcity mentality. The original language, make the most, is this Greek word right here, and it's called exaggerozomenoi. I think it's the longest Greek word that they could have given me to pronounce, okay? I had to practice it like 20 times. But it's this financial term. Exaggerozomenoi is a financial term describing when you realize that there's an opportunity in the market. Something's on sale, something's undervalued. So you're going to buy up all that you can find, okay? In the market terms, you're buying the dip. You're seizing the opportunity. What this verse is saying is that sometimes we don't have limitless opportunities. So we better get after the opportunities that we have. And the days are evil. That means these opportunities might not come back around. So this looks like a 3-step process for us to make the most of every opportunity. The first is this: we're going to eliminate any and all obstacles so that people have the best opportunity to bump into Jesus. And then next, How we do that? By using our spiritual gifts, talents, abilities, resources, passions, and creativity. And then finally, so that Jesus can do what only he can do. We're going to try to make the church attractive to those outside the faith, okay? We're going to try to eliminate any and all obstacles. That's why we give away coffee from local companies for free, because we understand that sometimes, like the same thing with a party, you get a drink in your hand and you feel like, I feel a little bit more comfortable now. I feel like I can go make conversation because I got this thing that I can do when the conversation gets awkward, okay? That's why we do our best to make sure that our kids' ministry environments are the safest, most fun, most helpful environments that your kid goes to every week, okay? We want kids dragging their parents to church at times. Adam was telling me that some kids actually call this the fun church, you know? Like, it's the fun church because of what kids ministry volunteers do downstairs with the kids. That's why there are load-in teams that are going to get here 2 hours before anybody else. They're going to set up every single thing that you see because they want to make sure that this is an intentional environment for your friend to come in and bump into Jesus. The band is practicing for hours before they ever get on stage, and then they're rehearsing for hours. Then they do a whole complete run-through just to make sure that they can get it right for when you invite your coworker, when you invite your family member. That's why city life teams are some of the most friendly, welcoming people on the planet. They're going to take advantage of every opportunity to break down a barrier when somebody walks in for the very first time. They want them to feel welcome here at church. And that's why you all throw these parties for members of the community too. You're taking care of teachers. You're taking care of people at this after-school center as well. Even if people aren't going to walk inside our doors, we still want them to feel the love of Christ, okay? Here's the point, going back to intentional environments. We're eliminating any and all obstacles so that people have the best opportunity to bump into Jesus. How does that happen? Next part, by using our spiritual gifts, talents, abilities, resources, passions, and creativity. Romans 12 says it like this: for just as each of us has one body, many members, these members don't all have the same function, so in Christ we, though many, form one body. Each member belongs to the others. We've got different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it's to serving, then let it serve. If it's teaching, then teach. If it's to encourage, then give encouragement. If it's giving, then give generously. If it's to lead, do it diligently. And if it's to show mercy, do it cheerfully. You see, I think about what Paul's writing here like it's a Venn diagram, okay? And first, you've got like one circle. This is your passion, okay? These are the things that you're excited about. These are the things that like you really like to do. They make you come alive. And then the next circle right here, you've got your gifting. These are the things that you're good at. These are the things that you like to do, but they're things you're talented, you've got specific skills in. And then the final circle is this is the need. This is the place that the world just has a need. Things just need to get done. And there in the middle where your passion lines up with your gifting, lines up with the world's need, that's where we find purpose. That's where we find mission. That's where we find calling. When we are in this place where it feels like we're just where God wants us to be. Some examples, it's the middle-aged man who loves to hunt and realizes that there are some boys without dads. They've never been hunting. They've never been camping. They've never been to the mountains. He goes, I'm going to get involved with a youth group, and I'm going to make sure that these kids who have never had that opportunity actually get that opportunity. It's a 22-year-old girl who has loved photography ever since she was little, and now she owns her own photography business, and at the same time, she uses that business, she uses that opportunity to take pictures of people on Baptism Sunday so that they can commemorate one of the most important moments in their lives. It's the 40-year-old woman who just all throughout high school and college and afterwards just found herself in these leadership roles. And what she's doing now is she runs her own company, but she's using the core values in her company. They actually mirror the core values of Jesus and the church. And she's covertly teaching her employees about what it looks like to follow Jesus through her own company. For all of us, there's something where our gifting, our passion, and the world's need, it collides. Then, let me be honest with you, there are just some things, nobody's gifting, there's nobody's passion They just need to get done, okay? Here, husbands, just let me give you a tip. Don't go home and look at dishes and just go like, well, doing the dishes, they're just not my gifting. They're just not my passion, okay? Don't do that, okay? Because that's going to come back around on you later, okay? Like, you're going to do the thing that all guys do when you get in bed at night. You're just going to be like, hey, you know what she's going to say? I don't know if that's my gifting. I don't know if that's my passion, okay? It's going to come back around. I'm just telling you, do not do it. I don't know if anybody is really gifted at cleaning toilets. I don't know if anybody is really passionate about taking out the trash. I don't know if there's anybody that just loves being in a room downstairs with a bunch of crying infants, okay? I don't know. But as followers of Jesus, we can't act like we're above doing things that simply just need to get done. I mean, Jesus said it like this. Look at this. Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. Whoever wants to be first must be your slave, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. You see, all of you, you've got gifts, talents, skills, experiences that the church needs. And then there are some things that nobody might be gifted in, nobody might be passionate about. They just need to get done. I want to encourage you, find ways to do both. Now, I want to look at the last part of the statement. We're creating intentional environments. We're eliminating obstacles. We're using all of our gifts, our talents, our abilities, our resources, passions, and creativity. Why do we do that? So that Jesus can do what only he can do. Paul says it like this when he's writing to a group of people in a town called Colossae. He says this, whatever you do, whether it's in word or in deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. If you're holding a door, hold that door for the glory of God. If you're leading a small group, open up your home, facilitate community for the glory of God. If you're teaching kids, do everything that you can to engage them and help them for the glory of God. If you're waiting tables, do a great job. Do everything you can to let that customer know that you care about them for the glory of God. If you're playing music, make it awesome for the glory of God. And here's the thing about music in church. It has the opportunity to be the most invitational part of a service to people outside the church, and at the same time, it has the ability to be the most divisive thing when it comes to a church. And which one we choose depends all on you and how you guys approach it. You see, around here, sometimes we might play songs that you don't really like, or you wish we did songs in a different style than we actually do, and that's totally valid. And at the same time, just want to ask you, the next time that you don't like the song that we're playing or the style of music, please give Adam and Demetrius and the team some credit. They're trying to reach all people, not just people with your music preferences. And we know that one of the reasons that people are going to show up and actually give church a shot is because they play music that sounds like the music they're used to listening to. You see, here's a principle we all need to hold on to right here. It says, we need to be willing to sacrifice our personal preferences for kingdom progress. I'll say it again. We need to be willing to sacrifice our personal preferences for kingdom progress. Because here's the thing I know about my church. One day, my church is going to play music that I don't really like. You know, I know that eventually I'm not going to like the music that we play, but another generation will. And that's actually a good thing because church isn't just about me. And if it's not just about me, that means church isn't just about you. And churches like Hope City are for people who aren't here yet, helping them bump into Jesus so that Jesus can do what only he can do. And I've been so impressed with my older friends in their 60s or 70s or 80s. And they'll say things like, yeah, that wasn't my favorite song, or I don't really like the music. But my kids do. But their friends do. But my younger neighbor does. They're sacrificing personal preference for kingdom progress. I would tell you, and Adam and I have talked at length about this, Hope City knows its calling as a church. And calling is just this church word for the thing that we were created to do. Back to the concentric circles, it's like we know the thing that we're passionate about, the thing that we're gifted at, and we know where the world needs us, and we know right in the middle, that's our purpose. That's what we were called to do. And it's this, to help people experience Jesus in a way that will change their lives and impact generations with his hope. We know our calling. And at the same time, we know that we're not for everybody. You know, Adam knows, we know there are a lot of people, they might not like the way that we communicate, might not like the music or the volume or the type of people that we let stay here. And then there are people, they love the music, they love the teaching, they love the volume, they love everything else, but eventually they want something else, and they'll say, I want something deeper. They want a deeper type of study, something that other churches do. And here's what, and I've run this by Adam, those are all really, really good things. But as a church, Hope City can't do everything. And Hope City right now chooses to not do a lot. Not saying that it's not important, but intentional environments, it actually means we're going to do every single thing that we can as long as it fits two criteria. Number one, it fits in with what God's called Hope City to do. And number two, we can do it with excellence. You see, we know that we can't do everything, and we can't even do some of the things that people want us to do because that's what they used to do at their old church. But here's the thing that I think that you need to hear, and I asked Adam if it's okay to say this, and he said it was. Hope City's not actually interested in keeping everybody here. I mean, of course, we would love it if everybody who came here stayed here. But we're okay when it doesn't happen. Hope City's not interested in keeping everybody. We are interested in keeping spiritually mature people who at the same time have this passion and desire for their neighbors who don't know Jesus, for their friends who don't know Jesus, for their brothers or sisters who don't know Jesus, to actually show up and give them a shot, bringing the awesome life of Christ to people in a lost and broken world. I mean, Hope City has a calling to reach people who might not fit at other churches. I think this is illustrated by one of my favorite stories from both Adam and my time at Flatirons. It was a baptism Sunday, and we did baptism like you guys do in hot tubs. And this guy comes to be baptized, and he's all tatted up. He's got sleeves, and he's got like neck tattoos, and he's wearing a Tom Brady jersey, which meant he really needed to get baptized, okay? Because who could root for Tom Brady? And so anyways, he shows up, he takes off the Tom Brady jersey, and he gets in the hot tub, and he takes my hand like this, and I see on his knuckles, he's got the word weed spelled out on his knuckles. Now, if you don't know what that is, ask your kids later, okay? You know, they'll explain it to you. But he's got the word weed tattooed on his knuckles. And so we talk with him about faith. We hear about his story, and he puts his faith in Jesus, gets baptized. And I saw that he had something else on his other knuckles. And so afterwards, I'm asking Adam, I'm like, Adam, what do you have on his other knuckles? Adam's like, dude, it's so cool. He had the word king tattooed on his knuckles. I was like, so you got the weed king. Now, here's the thing about the Weed King. I want you to think about this. I want you to think about the Weed King showing up to a church that's not like Hope City, a church that's not like Flatirons, but a church that is kind of like the one maybe you grew up in, or the church that you left, or a church that doesn't have a passion or a gifting to reach people who wouldn't fit at other churches. It shows up at a normal church. And the Weed King puts out his hand to shake somebody's hand as they walk in. All it takes is a half-second hesitation from that person who's shaking his hand for him to realize, I don't belong here. And he's going to sit through the service, he's not going to say anything, and he's not going to come back. He's going to go, okay, I don't belong there. And he might say, I probably don't belong at any churches. And eventually he might say, I don't even know if I belong with Jesus. That half-second hesitation, that little moment matters so much. And that's why what you all are doing here and working together to build is so important, because every single moment matters. I think in life, most of us were good at recognizing like these big moments, these obvious moments, when these times where it's like our moment and everything is relying on it, depending on it. But most of the time what I found out is the most obvious moments, they're not the most important moments. The most important moments are these normal, everyday moments that end up having an exponential impact. I mean, I want you to think about football, okay? In football, you can look back at the end of a game, and you can point to one play, and you say, that was the play that changed the game. That touchdown was a game changer. That forced fumble was a game changer. That interception was a game changer. But here's the thing. Those players, when they're in the middle of the game, they don't know it's going to be a game-changing play. Does that make sense? They're just lining up every single play, and they're trying to do the right thing, be in the right place at the right time. And they do it play after play after play until one time it's the right moment, and bam, it's a game changer. But they didn't know that it was a game-changing play right at the beginning. Here's the principle. You don't know when it's the most important moment until after the moment's done. So make the most of every opportunity. You do the right thing in front of you time after time after time. You be obedient to where God has placed you right now, and you leave the game changing to God, because God knows when it's your moment. You see, every single moment matters. And Jesus is the best example of this. His entire life is these seemingly random encounters with people that end up changing everything. You got this group of guys who feel like they're fishermen who feel like they've been given up on. Jesus turns them into disciples. You got these women who were outcasts who the world had given up on. Jesus brings them in, says, you're valued. You can follow me. I want to disciple you as well. See, if it weren't for Jesus, it wouldn't matter what we did with our opportunities. But Jesus, he sees the moment for all of us. I want to close by just looking at Romans 5:6. It describes it. You see, at just the right time. At just the right time, when we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly. Jesus sets this example. You never know what's going to be the moment that changes everything in the moment, and that's why we treat every moment like it could be the moment that changes everything. You might be in a conversation this afternoon, and it just seems to you like it's a normal, everyday conversation. What you don't know is that it could be the moment that changes everything. You're serving in kids ministry downstairs, and you invite a kid to be a part of your group because they're off by themselves. And what you don't know is that moment is actually going to change the entire trajectory of that kid's life because you just invited them to be a part of it. Or after service, you just share a video from church on social media. And somebody that you don't even really know that well, not even going to talk to you, they watch that video and they hear for the first time that God's not done with them, that he cares about people just like them, and it changes everything, and they're not the same. Hope City, every day you got opportunities. We don't know what God's going to do with them, okay? If he wants to use them to change everything, though, we need to be ready. We need to make the most of every opportunity he gives us. Let's pray together. God, I'm praying for this group of people. God, I'm also praying for me. God, these moments that we're getting ready to step into as we leave church today, as we're watching what's happening online, God, we're just thinking that it's a normal drive home. God, we're thinking it's a normal lunch. We're thinking it's a normal afternoon. But God, you've got these moments waiting for us. God, I'm praying that you would just help us to see them. God, would you highlight them, God, so that we know, God, this is a moment that you might want to change everything. God, we can't do anything about the past. We can't do anything about the opportunities that we've let pass us by. But God, we can do something about the present. We can do something about these opportunities right here in front of us. And so, God, we're praying that you help us make the most of them. God, we can only do that because of your son, Jesus, and what he did for us on a cross. And it's in his name that we thank you. It's his name that we pray. It's his name that we worship. Amen. So right now, we've got some time for you to just spend some time in prayer and in silence to reflect on your week, to reflect on, if you're a follower of Jesus, what God may have been teaching you this week, what he may have been teaching you during the service as well. And also, we've got ushers who are going to pass communion. Just an opportunity for you to remember that just at just the right time when you needed it, when we didn't have anything to offer God, God gave his son Jesus on our behalf. So if you're a follower of Jesus, we welcome you to take communion and just take a minute or two, reflect on what God's teaching us, and then we'll worship.